Today I'll be talking about pigment liner pens, the advantages and the disadvantages of using these pens. I'll also show you some ways that you can shade your drawings using pigment liners. And we may even answer the age-old question, is the pen mightier than the sword? Of course, you can't draw with a sword.
Just a flesh wound.
Okay, this isn't really a comparison video, but I do have Micron's and Staedtler pens, and so I will be demonstrating hatching, cross-hatching, stippling or dot shading, and scribble shading. And I'll be showing them in the different line thicknesses. I'll start off with the Microns, and the first column will be the size of the pen nib. I will be demonstrating how to use these methods in this video. I just wanted to talk first about the thickness of the pen nibs and why the size of the pen matters. And this goes back to the advantages and the disadvantages of using pigment liner pens. Some advantages are, well, they're portable, they're convenient, and they always have a consistent line weight. So what are the disadvantages? Well, number one would be they have a consistent line weight. Unlike a fountain pen or a dip pen, where depending on how much pressure you use, you can get a variety in your line width. These ones will always have the same consistent line weight, so you actually have to change the size of the pen if you want variety in your line. So you have to decide what you're looking for in your drawing to know what kind of pen you want to use. So here are a few ways to shade with these pens. 1. Hatching. So what is hatching? Well, it's basically just using evenly spaced parallel lines to darken an area or create a texture. The closer together the lines, the darker the tone. So it's possible to vary your shading by just using one single pen nib. However, if you go from a broader pen nib to a finer pen nib, it gives you much more flexibility with your shading. The same principles apply when you take the hatching and you change directions, creating a pattern as you use it. Aside from adding visual interest, this works very well on curved objects. Number 2 is scribble shading. And yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. Moving your pen around in a scribbling fashion, being very careful to be random and not create a set pattern. Scribble drawing seems to work best when you don't need a smooth, defined outline on your drawing. Number 3 is cross-hatching. Cross-hatching is just like hatching, only the lines cross over one another. You can have many layers and they can go in different directions. And number 4 is stippling. Stippling is using a series of dots and moving them in random patterns to create the shading. The more dots you have, the darker the shading. But you have to be patient because stippling takes a very long time.
Faster! Faster! Can't you go any faster?
Lady, please!
Here's an example of how I do cross-hatching. I'll start with a very simple shape, a pear. Once you have your shape, the first thing you should do is decide what direction the light is coming from. Then I start hatching, allowing the lines to curve with the shape of the pear. I'm going to speed this part up. I start on the side where the light is coming from, and I use a very fine nib pen to do the hatching on that side. Then I do the hatching on the other side using a pen with a wider nib. You can already see the pear taking shape, and that could be enough shading for a simple illustration. But I'm going to do cross-hatching, and I want to completely cover this pear. I just keep adding in more cross-hatching as I move to the lighter side of the pear. And as I go closer and closer to the light side of the pear, I change up the pens to get smaller nibs. There are lots of people who are better at cross-hatching than I am. I always feel that my cross-hatching is just a little bit wild, a little bit messy, and some people can do it in such an orderly way. You just have to focus on keeping the lightest areas light and then build up the layers of the dark shadows. Just add in more cross-hatching, other directions, until you get the shape of the object that you're shading. And there you have it, a couple of different ways for you to try shading when you use pigment liner pens. You can support my channel by subscribing so YouTube will share my videos with more people. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you ring that bell, you'll be notified every time I post a video. Thank you for watching.